Great. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much. So let's kick off the second panel of today. And thank you very much for everyone who's here with us, both here in person in Berlin and online. So my name is Pavel Bilek, and I'll be the moderator for this panel. And for those who don't know me, so I'm the deputy head of the Low Carbon Ukraine project, funded by the German Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action, and also the deputy team leader or deputy head of the energy and climate team at Berlin Economics more broadly. So it really is a huge pleasure to be here with you today to moderate the second panel on the investment requirements for the Ukrainian power sector and on how these investments can help achieve both Ukraine's and Germany's shared goal for the energy transition and decarbonization, but also, quite importantly, for the energy security of the European continent at large. So on the first panel, we heard about the state of play of Ukraine's energy system, including some of the strategic visions and plans, not only for the reconstruction, but also the future greening of the system through the larger integration of renewable energy sources, including utility-scale solar PV and wind power. But what we are already observing now is the larger decentralization of the Ukrainian energy system and integration of small-scale distributed renewables, which will also require, of course, significant upgrades to the grid, introducing the need for larger flexibility and energy storage solutions as well. The damage that was sustained to Ukraine's energy system does, of course, provide an opportunity to build back better, and I think that's a big reason of why we're here today. But just as everywhere else, the decarbonization of energy systems will require significant investment, something that we will discuss with our many esteemed panelists today, both here in person and online. And it is, of course, clear that Ukraine's future is firmly in Europe, with significant mutual benefits for energy security and decarbonization. But what these benefits can be and how to achieve them also merits further discussion, especially in terms of the necessary next steps and pathways to get there. So I'm delighted to be joined today by three experts who will be sharing their insights on these topics with us today, and I'll give a very quick introduction to them before we proceed with the first presentation. So first off, we have Volodymyr Kudrytskyi, who has been the Chief Executive Officer of UKRENERGO, the country's transmission system operator since 2020, during which time he oversaw the emergency synchronization with NSOE in the first days of the war, as well as continuing operations of the system ever since. We'll then go to Yevhen Didichenko, who is the co-founder of KNESS, an international group of companies which provide the full range of solutions in the Ukrainian renewable energy sector since 2009. And Yevhen is also responsible for founding the company's research and development department as well. And finally, we have over here with us Maxim Bevz, who is the team lead on renewable energy campaigns and green rebuilding of Ukraine at Razom We Stand. And with over 20 years of experience in the Ukrainian energy sector, Maxim has extensive experience in the field of gas, including as the former head of division at Naftogaz, and currently is an expert on renewable energy and the green reconstruction of Ukraine more broadly. So before we kick off, just a few notes on administration and some administrative housekeeping. So we'll start off with two presentations by Volodymyr and Yevhen. These will be online, followed by some questions to them, and then as well as Maxim here in person. And after this, we'll have a broader discussion with all of the panelists, and we'll then, of course, open this up to the rest of the audience as well. So thank you so much, and I think we can kick off with the presentation from Volodymyr Kudrytskyi. Thank you. Do we have Volodymyr online?
Volodymyr, do you hear us?
Hello, do you hear me?
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now. Unfortunately, the sound was off for all the time.
Okay, well, maybe I introduced you so we can jump into your presentation. You can start whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thank you very much. I have no presentation for today, but I rather had a kind of a short speech regarding ENSOE and the role of our interconnection with the European market and for creation of new generation forms in Ukraine. Sorry, I could not hear the context of your introduction, but I hope this is something that you already addressed before. So currently, Ukraine is switching from the emergency mode to development mode. And the finalization of ENSOE process is absolutely instrumental and critical for that. So practically on the ground, it means that we are, instead of refilling the auto transformer fleet and recovery of damaged power units, we need to think what new forms of generation we will have to roll out to make sure that the system is resilient enough, the system is adequate, meaning that it can meet the demand for electricity at every moment of time, and the system is affordable as well. So as an operator, we have, of course, a function of modeling of optimal power mix for a long-term period of time. And UKRENERGO is doing this every year. We have the special report called Generation Adequacy Report, which is produced by us and approved by the regulator. And it was done this year as well. And this report says that basically for the energy transformation of Ukrainian power system, to make it more resilient, to make it adequate to the needs of consumption, and make it affordable as well, we will have to phase out most or all of the thermal power generation that we currently have, because this is the oldest, but also the most expensive technology on Ukrainian market, along with certain gas-fired Soviet power plants. And we will have to introduce a mix of technologies that will consist of wind and solar, which are basic for making system cheaper because they have very low marginal cost, and some technologies that would balance those increased wind and solar capacities in the system. We're talking specifically about gas picking capabilities, gas picking installations. We're talking about biofuel installations, and we're talking about battery storage systems. These three types of technologies, together with increased wind and solar, and also optimized utilization of our existing nuclear fleet, will be able to not only to cover consumption in the future, and will let us get rid of those deficits of power that we face from time to time, both in the summer and winter season, but also will make our system more affordable and will give us an opportunity to share significant amounts of energy output with our neighbors. Ukraine is very well connected to adjacent markets of Poland, Slovakia, Romania, Hungary, and Moldova. And Ukraine, therefore, as one of the biggest energy systems on the continent, represent an additional source for Europe, for EU, to get extra electricity supplies. We know that in Europe, the industrial consumption of electricity tends to grow faster than generation capabilities, especially taking into account that Europe is phasing out coal-fired power plants and also partially gas-fired and nuclear. So Ukraine is one of the biggest external sources of power for to share with the region, with Central and Eastern Europe. But in order to do that, we will have to build very specific volumes of new generation types, which are 1.4 gigawatts of gas peaking capacities, 1.3 gigawatts of biofuel installations, and up to 1 gigawatts of 2-hour battery storage installations, along with 4 to 5 gigawatts of wind and solar each. So this cocktail of technologies will provide necessary backup for phased out coal-fired power plants, and will bring Ukraine back to the track of exporter of electricity, both in the summer and winter. Thank you.
Right.
Yep. Cool. So maybe just as a follow-up question, and thank you so much, Volodymyr, for the opening speech. You mentioned a number of the capacities that you will be looking to integrate in the next few years, but maybe a question would also be, what do you think is the current technical potential for both wind and solar? Because installing 2 to 4 gigawatt is, of course, you know, a short-term target, but I would also like to understand maybe what the longer-term picture is. So if we think about it from this direction, maybe you could talk to us a little bit about the short and medium-term priorities as a start, and then also to talk a little bit more about what you are currently seeing when you're conducting these adequacy assessments on what the potential for wind and solar could be and integration into the system.
All those volumes that I mentioned are for 5 to 7 years perspective. So these are not short-term perspectives. And we, frankly speaking, we hear from time to time like big gigantic plans of building tens and even hundreds of gigawatts of installations of solar and wind solely in Ukraine. But currently the current system needs, and also given the existing interconnector limitations, not only on the Ukrainian side, by the way, force us to say that 4 to 5 gigawatts of wind and solar combined with few gigawatts of balancing capacities is something that would be already sufficient in the medium and even long-term perspective, up to 7 or 10 years for Ukraine to be sustainable in terms of covering electricity consumption and to share extra volumes of electricity with its neighbors. So to utilize the interconnector capacity to the fullest extent possible. So I would not say that 2 or 3 gigawatts, let's say, of wind is a short-term goal. We currently see during the war that few hundred megawatts of both technologies are being installed every year. But this is a very good sign for me. To me, it means that there is an investment appetite still to deploy those technologies that could be profitable based on market situation in Ukraine. And what we currently need to do is to stimulate the appearance of balancing technologies on Ukrainian market, being battery storage systems and flexible power plants like gas peakers or biofuel thermal power plants. But to stimulate those, we need to fix a few problems on the market, and the biggest one among which is debts on the balancing market. Also, we need to provide longer-term contracts for ancillary service market products that we procure as an operator from the market. This will make such new projects as attractive as wind and solar installations are currently for Ukraine. And I personally know several investors, both from Ukraine and abroad, that are ready to deploy first battery storage installations in Ukraine. And I do hope that fixing this very concrete few problems of functioning of balancing market and prolongation of ancillary service contracts terms will finally make this market segment appear on Ukrainian energy map. This is essential to integrate more renewables that we need to substitute existing coal-fired generation, which historically, at this historical stage, will have to gradually be phased out.
Folks here and online, what you see as some of the benefits of Ukraine being synchronized with NSOE, both for Ukraine and for the EU. What does this mean in terms of stability, in terms of energy security, and in terms of revenues also for Ukraine as well? But you were obviously there when the synchronization happened, and maybe you could talk a little bit about what you see as some of the longer-term potential as well.
At the night of invasion, we disconnected from Russia, meaning that we were ready to operate in isolated mode for some time. And also it meant that we were at the final stage of synchronization. So we can say that invasion maybe speeded up the process, but we cannot say that it is a purely kind of humanitarian gesture. I do believe that Ukrainian synchronization brings benefits not only for Ukrainian energy security, which are obvious because we are part of bigger and reliable system, and we are part of a friendly energy system, unlike in times before 24th of February 2022. But also it brings a lot of stability benefits for neighbors of Ukraine, I do believe, because Ukrainian system is quite stable, and it has no stability issues, which were the topic of many technical discussions before synchronization. But Ukrainian system also can share certain volumes of extra energy resources with Eastern and Central Europe. This is essential for our neighbors. For example, Hungary historically used to be and is now a big customer for Ukrainian electricity volumes. Other neighbors also use supplies from Ukraine to balance their systems, to make their energy mix cheaper. And in view of future synchronization of Baltic states, we do believe that active participation of Ukraine on the regional market of continental Europe brings a lot of benefits in forms of extra volumes that we can export to EU. We think that these capabilities of our power system have to be enhanced with time. And this enhancement will, of course, come with the energy transformation that I described earlier.
Yes, good day. Now I'm sharing my presentation. Is it clear? Can you see my
Так,
presentation?
чудово видно. Так.
Okay, thank you. So yes, I'm Yevhen Didichenko, co-investor and CBDO of KNESS Group. Our company is operating in the energy market since 2009. We are focusing on renewable energy and energy storage systems. And we are running our business activities in Ukraine and Eastern Europe. So thank you for opportunity to speak today about our vision of Ukraine's energy future and about relevant business models for ESS operation in the electricity market to increase power systems resilience and increase the share of renewable energy. So first, I would like to start with our totally realistic vision of Ukraine's energy system. We see Ukraine as an energy independent, carbon neutral, energy democratic country with a decentralized system of energy production and consumption, which has a high level of reliability and competitive energy cost level. And according to our mathematical model, Ukraine can reach a carbon neutral energy system with LCO of 80 euro per megawatt hour. And if we keep the current capacity of nuclear power plants to cover the annual consumption of about 140 terawatt hour, Ukraine needs 22 gigawatt of wind, 15 gigawatt of solar, and 4 gigawatt of long-term energy storage systems. It's enough to keep 5 gigawatt of thermal generation to compensate for long-term renewable energy sources deficits. And to create such energy system, investment of 50 billion euros are needed. In case we do not have nuclear generation at all, we need about 40 gigawatt of wind, 20 gigawatt of solar, 5 gigawatt of long duration energy storages, and leave 9 gigawatt of thermal power plants. This would require about 80 billion euros of investments. For comparison, constructing 14 gigawatt of nuclear power plants would also cost about 80 billion euros, but it would cover only half of the balance. Our key point is that it's not reasonable to go back to the past. Instead, we should use the opportunity to develop renewable energy generation in a balanced way and move closer to carbon neutrality. But it's all about the future. Let's focus on today. What does Ukraine energy system need now? I'd say flexibility and reliability. As the share of solar and wind in electricity balance of Ukraine's energy system increases, the flexibility shortage is growing. The ancillary services market is experiencing a stable deficit of capacity reserves for primary and secondary frequency regulation. For 2024, the required volume of primary frequency regulation is set at 99 megawatt, and 421 megawatt of symmetrical FRR service is needed. However, currently the needs are met for no more than 1/3. ESS can fully meet today's market demand as it has great advantages over traditional generation. What are the specifics of ESS operation in electricity market in Ukraine? So the only customer of ancillary service is the transmission system operator, UKRENERGO. Ancillary service market is the readiness market. The balancing market is the energy market. In other words, there is availability fee in the ancillary service market, which means that electrical asset can provide FCR and FRR services every hour. The balanced volumes of electricity supplied or taken from the grid by activating FCR capacity are settled as imbalances in the balancing market or within a balancing group with other market participants. The balanced volumes activated by FRR are sold as balancing energy on the balancing market. Ukraine has not implemented yet limited energy reservoirs regulation. In particular, the grid code does not provide for limited time for the full FCR activation. In case of major emergencies, it may be required to operate for an hour without a break. And there is a penalty of 3 times the service cost for unavailability or underperformance of the FCR service. For FRR service, the activation should take place within 15 minutes, but in practice, the activation may take hours. The penalty for failure to provide the FRR service is twice the cost of service. And this is a result, I think, of not having enough tertiary reserves. Currently, the TCO does not buy the replacement reserve services for such reserves. All of this creates the need to increase the ESS capacity, which increases the project capex. We have our own algorithms and mathematical modeling of ESS operation on the market. We have developed our own technological ESS solution based on LFP technology, and its competitive advantage lies in the fact that our solution requires significantly less capital investment per 1 megawatt of FCR and FRR service. This is ensured by the technical design and smart operation algorithms. In particular, the use of capacity for service provision is minimized thanks to our know-how, which is a system of balancing active power withdrawal from the grid. Besides, with our optimized solution, designed especially for Ukraine market, it's possible to provide for both for FCR and FRR service continually. We are now implementing a pilot project of our own investments in producing ESS with 12 megawatts of certified capacity for FCR. And we plan to put it into operation by the end of this year. The first test megawatt of FCR will be put on the ancillary service market, I think this spring. Besides, we are now developing 7 ESS projects which have total capacity about 200 megawatt of grid connection. All projects are intended for the ancillary services market with future further transition to the balancing market. We have been analyzing the electricity market for ESS operation for a long time and have developed and manufactured our own technology solution and have formed a working and most importantly a relevant business model for ESS operation for FCR and FRR. In our business model, we see ourselves as EPC contractor and offer a comprehensive asset management service to our investors. It's about creating a passive business for our clients. The service includes project development, ESS production, EPC project implementation with connection, and asset management, which includes financial management of SPV, commercial asset management, that is securing participation in auctions, trading, and market activities, and technical management, that is O&M. The main competitive advantage of this business model based on our solution is low project capex. For comparison, our solution, which contains 6 MW per 6 MWh LFP with 3 MW balancing system, provides a 5 MW FCR and 3 MW FRR. The total capex of such a project, including ESS and EPC with connection, is approximately 2.7 million euro. At the same time, project capex with another conventional market solution, which contains 4.5 MW per 9 MWh LFP, will be approximately 3.6 million euro, and it will provide even less capacity, 4 MW of FCR and 3 MW of FRR. We as investors in our own market-oriented ESS projects understand the importance of a credible business model that will ensure obvious return on that capital. Accordingly, we assume guarantees for operation of our business model, as well as warranty obligations for the performance of our equipment. We realize that this is important for investors who plan to be one of the pioneers in investing in ESS projects in Ukraine to operate in the ancillary services market. Later, with the development of long-term energy storages, it will be possible to use ESS to provide replacement reserve services. In other words, long-term ESS will be able to serve as maneuvering generation. But long-term storage technologies are still under development, and in general, the need for such ESS will only appear when the share of renewables exceeds 50% of the total balance. In Ukraine, the need of such ESS may arise even earlier if the nuclear generation has a large share. Our R&D center is developing flow storage technology for 4 years. The target parameters are 12 hours of capacity and capex of the entire system of no more than 100 euro for 1 kWh. This project is developed as part of our startup RFlow. The technology is already patented, and we want to launch a commercialized product by the end of 2026. So we believe that this technology will become an important component of the future energy system, and we will do everything possible to make it work as soon as possible. And as we are a company with an innovative approach, both in business and in global energy thinking, we are focusing on creating conditions for the stable operation of Ukraine's energy system, as well as the development of renewable energy sources to decarbonize the energy system. So thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts with you, and I appreciate your attention.
Thank you so much, Yevhen. Maybe just as a follow-up question or a few. So you mentioned quite a few things that need to happen, but maybe you could tell us a little bit about the policy dimension. What are some of the reforms, or what do you need to see from a regulatory perspective to make this market more attractive?
Surely, I think that long auctions will be more attractive to to enter to this market, and it will be more attractive for the banks to give loans. I think it's most important thing.
How do you see, because there's obviously going to be a pretty significant necessity to integrate more renewables, as you said, more battery storage. Do you think there's a possibility for Ukraine to develop some of these value chains themselves and localize them as opposed to just importing components from abroad? What do you think is the future of the, let's say, renewable actual manufacturing sector in Ukraine?
Sorry, I didn't understand your question.
Yeah, no problem. I can rephrase. So in light of all of this extra renewable capacity that's going to have to be installed, the battery storage and all the other technologies, do you think that there's a potential for Ukraine to become, let's say, a green manufacturing hub where actually, you know, the technologies are produced in the country as well, as opposed to just importing them from abroad?
Yes, I'm sure that everything is ready in Ukraine to become a green hub and to make local manufacture of all components necessary for green power.
Important your presentation because it is very interesting for participate Ukrainian business for and present interesting projects. And the head question what we see, and as I'm like an ex banker, I can understand the turnover for all of the projects is about the question around the tariffs. So what maybe you think about how this tariff for the people will bring grow and give the business grow of a solar plant in Ukraine? Did you expect a huge growing of solar plants on the roof for the people in villages or for business? Did you get this information or some of data around this?
Yes, sure, because of exceptions of new law about active customers or active consumers, we see high interest to the installation rooftop PV plants now, and I'm waiting for high development of such direction.
That Ukrainian government said that new tariff for the people will grow, and I understand that is interesting more and more for a business, not only locally in Ukraine, but in Western partners who expecting for this growing, and how we see expect that potential for covering of risks will be present from Ukrainian banks. So maybe biggest player like EBRD or IAB can be applied for this game. Maybe someone can give us the new proposition to make this project more cheapest, maybe. And if I know, we have 10 years ago the good mechanism of ESCO contracting, where we use and bring many of a building for boiler houses update heating for houses. So it is interesting. But unfortunately, this business, again, like a phoenix, fly up. And so I see many potential in this case in ESCO, because now banks give more obstacle in financial understanding of a business, and capacity of this understanding is not very good, unfortunately. Maybe 2 or 3 banks who work in this market who understand anything in energy efficiency, because it's mostly playing in money like in card game, you understand. So our expectation, of course, it's a first step. Held Mr. Kudrytskyi and local business, Mr. Didichenko said that all of these games around the tariffs. If these tariffs grow up, it's not good. We understand the people, but we need the money for financing, you understand, pensions for people as the taxes, and business might go through this and understand the financial potentials. And I know that many things that German business wants to play in these games too, but they expect the coverage of this war problem in this case. So let's see how it is. Maybe this growing of the tariffs help to understand the next steps in growing of the electricity business. Yes.
100%. Do you have any other questions for Volodymyr Kudrytskyi while we still have him here? Or Yevhen Didichenko, do you also have any questions for Mr. Kudrytskyi? Maxim?
No, thank you.
So I think what your expectation for the grids if the tariffs for the people start growing for Mr. Kudrytskyi if he is in our conversation now? No.
From saying that we have 3 types of prices on Ukrainian market. We have a wholesale price, which benefits industrial installations, let's say, benefits power plants. Big industrial customers are paying wholesale price for their electricity. Then they have to pay transportation fees, meaning tariffs of UKRENERGO, which is transmission system operator and distribution system operators. So there is a regulated tariff for transportation. It's regulated because we are natural monopolies. We cannot just set the price at the level which we want. And then we have special regulated tariff for population. I can tell you that population tariffs, household tariffs, they do not have impact on evolution of Ukrainian generation plants, because generation plants, existing ones and the new ones, will benefit from wholesale prices and from ancillary service and balanced service market, which Mr. Didichenko mentioned. The population pays the fixed tariff due to the fact that 2 state-owned companies essentially compensate the difference between market price of electricity of this kilowatt hour and the regulated price. So this is more a fiscal problem than a market problem. This means that these 2 companies, Energatom and UKRENERGO, they just finance the difference between the market and regulated price for households. So I do not expect that the tariffs for transportation will be changed dramatically. We heard the position of the government that household tariffs are not envisaged to be changed in the short-term perspective. But the good news is that these 2 tariffs are not required to create proper market conditions for new generation facilities, like battery storages that Mr. Didichenko mentioned earlier. We just need to make sure that the wholesale market, which is market for the businesses, operates normally. And when I say normally, I mean first, the wholesale price have to be correlated with European price. This is now the case. We see the correlation of 80, even 90% or more over the recent maybe several weeks or months. Secondly, the balancing market has to be cleared up from arrears, from the debts. And this is something that we aim to fix this year, and properly functioning ancillary services market, which is a market where we as an operator buy flexibility from power plants and other participants, their readiness to support the system at every moment of time. At this market, we do not have any debts, but what we need to introduce is long-term contracts for these services, just to make these projects bankable, the projects that will render the services in the future to the operator. So the new projects will have to show to the bank that they have not only 1 year arrangement, but a longer term arrangement with the operator, with UKRENERGO. And we will be pushing hard for this change to happen in the regulatory field, so that we can see first battery storages deployed already this year in Ukraine.
So if I know, we have this experience of Zaporizhzhia station, first project where we have a storage of electricity. And what do you think if it starts the green reconstruction for the heat station on a coal, if we start in this case to build new storages and make this a little grid, or how it help for our grid in general? It is possible way maybe to start to say about how to reconstruct this old coal plant for the next opportunity to build new alternative energy, and make first step for reconstruct all of the system. What for your vision, it is possible really, or it is some of space dreaming?
Zaporizhzhia thermal power plant, as well as Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, they are located on currently occupied territories, and these two power plants do not release power to Ukrainian grid. Secondly, I do not think that we need to spend money on deep reconstruction of existing coal-fired fleet. It's quite clear because of different reasons. First of all, this type of generation is expensive. If you compare to like wind, solar, or even hydro or nuclear, the fuel is much more expensive for coal-fired power plants than for these other technologies. These thermal power plants are of a big scale. They use Soviet technologies to produce power, so they are not efficient. And their big size, it attracts, unfortunately, attacks of the adversary. It means that when you have this big power plant of 2,000 megawatts in one spot, the enemy can easily, or relatively easily, send like 5-10 missiles, and you, as a system, lose immediately this 2,000 megawatts if they are lucky, if they are successful. Now, if you have this decentralized generation, like you have, instead of one plant that has 2,000 megawatts of capacity, you think about 200 small plants of 10 megawatt capacity each, nicely spread around the country. This makes your system more resilient by the very fact that you have a decentralized generation. It doesn't mean that you will create a separate small grid around every such plant. It only means that instead of having 10, 15 big plants in the country, you should have hundreds to decentralize first, then physically, but secondly, you also decentralize market power. You can kind of deprive big players from the share of their market power, and you give the share to new players. In that way, you boost competition on the market and make the market more efficient. So what we see as an operator, our model shows that we need this cocktail of technologies that I mentioned earlier, but these power plants should not be as huge as existing Soviet-style fleet. They need to be decentralized, spread over the territory of the country, and they have to use green, mostly, technologies to produce energy, apart from gas-peaking installations, which have their specific transitional role for the power system. So this is our vision, and I do not believe that somebody will be able to raise financing for reconstruction of existing coal-fired power plants. It's just like you do not invest into floppy disks or old-fashioned TVs or something like that. These are technologies of 20th century, and nobody, also for sustainability reasons, will allow the credit committee and investment committee of the bank will not allow these investments to happen. And without proper financing, there is no way that these power plants can be reconstructed. They can only be restored from damages, and they can only operate for another several years in the future until we build new generation plants that I described. Thank you.
And it's very good, and we see that our analysis gives the same information for a business here. So we are only expect to understand who will be who covers this risk in financial situation, and we're looking forward for this one to find the money and make this new grid more greenest and more alternative. And mostly we have the two ways. Yes, we need more and more money for reconstruct to alternative energy, and together of this we have the problem to where these people who work on a coal plant go work. This is one of the question, and it is a question for our government and for people in DTEC to take this in mind, because the future, it's near the corner. It's not after 200 years. It's we made the future today. That's why we must bring to government of western part of Europe to understand that we need this money not only for spending in the restaurant, we need it for the people in all of the country. So thank you so much for your comments on this side. And if you have any questions, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. Maybe, yeah, definitely a need to consider the just transition in all of this, especially as you have further phase outs of not only coal power, but the other legacy assets as well. So thinking about the impact on communities, thinking about the impact on coal mining regions, gas regions, but of course even areas near the power plants. So thank you so much. I would actually like to open this to the audience now, as we're slowly kind of coming up on time. So either online or in person, are there any questions or comments for any of our speakers? No?
So maybe we have all of connection for next discussion of all of this question, and we can do our work and make world more and more greenest and without coal and any fossil fuels for the next and for our child and so on. Let's go.
That'll be the dream.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us today. It was a real pleasure to be here with you all and to really hear, from some of the leading experts in Ukraine on what the future looks like and what we have to expect. So thank you so much. Pleasure to be here with you all, and have a beautiful rest of the day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.